insulated metal, blah, 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 blah. If I looked at the search term like women's pink rubber coated insulated water bottle, like that's my exact product. Now, the more specific you get to the product, the more specific the search is, the lower your search volume is going to be. So what we always look to do on product launches is like we try and find the intersection between good search volume and good to us is like maybe even a couple thousand, depending on the budget, that also have really good relevancy to the product. Because what you're trying to do is you want to get in front of your exact shoppers. So example would be insulated water bottle is going to be really expensive and not super specific to my product. Like it's kind of specific, but not really specific. I'm trying to say like, okay, where can I start getting super specific to my product, but it's going to have enough search volume that I can get the sales volume that I need. So I would focus more on that versus that I would looking at only search volume. A bit of a technical answer here is we don't quote move them, meaning we're not going to pause the existing keywords. We're simply going to launch them in another match type. Again, make sure to keep the bids lower. Amazon actually, if you read their recommendations, they recommend keeping bids lower on broad and phrase match, even lower than the exact match. When we would launch those is honestly really dependent performance of the account and availability of the budget. So if you launch a keyword in exact phrase and broad, so you have 50 keywords, right? And you launch them in exact phrase and broad, you technically have, 150 keywords that you've launched. And the potential of broad and phrase to spend could be quite high. So again, you just want to make sure it makes sense. It seems super simplistic, but if you are in a phase where you're struggling to control total ACoS and ACoS, to fix those two numbers, it really means that you have to lower down your ad spend with ideally little to no impact of the total sales or the ad sales in the case of ACoS. If you introduce a whole, again, those 50 keywords in exact phrase and broad, and those you probably need to test and optimize the bids, etc., you're introducing a lot of additional ad spend into the account. So you do want to be aware of that and be careful with that. So that's kind of a benchmark that we use. But overall, I would say, I don't know if I would have like a certain time frame or a frame which I would hold back on. It really is dependent on the performance of the account. Another good question, which best bid strategy for phrase and exacts when you move? So again, we don't really move them. We would simply launch them in addition. We like to separate them by campaign as well. I think it gives us a little bit more control over, say, budgets for things. Now, as far as the bidding strategy, we're a super huge fan of using mainly dynamic down only. If it is a keyword that we want to ensure that we get impressions for, so for our launch keywords, for our main keywords, for anything we're trying to be aggressive with, we prefer a fixed bidding strategy. It's still going to be the same. It's still going to be pick highly relevant keywords. One other tip is pick keywords that fit within the budget of the account that you're launching. So for instance, if I have a couple $100 a day budget versus $50 a day budget, those launches are actually going to look a little bit different because I can't afford that many clicks on a $50 a day budget. Or if I had, a couple $100 or $1,000, I have a lot more room for clicks. So actually, you want budgets to play into your launch strategy. The other thing that you want to keep in mind, do not expect profitability on launch. This is a huge one. There's a lot of people that try and pull back and knee-jerk for profitability right out of the gate. That is not going to happen. The reason why it's not going to happen, and I'll tell you the numbers behind the numbers, is that ACoS is just going to be high on your product launches, and that is a function of two things. One, the aggressive cost per click you have to set to be able to get visibility in the beginning, and two, how low your product conversion rate is going to be, especially if you're launching without reviews. Those two things, once you start to be able to bring your cost per clicks down because you gain momentum or you're optimizing your bids, and then two, once your product conversion rate starts to increase because you're getting those reviews, maybe you're optimizing your listing a little bit more because you've learned more about your target market, that is going to help bring down your target ACoS. So those things, again, conversion rates are going to be low, high cost per clicks. That's actually like the nuts and bolts of why your ads are not profitable, and it's almost unreasonable to expect profitability in the beginning. And that's actually why, if you've ever had a product where you're like, no matter what I do, I cannot seem to bring the ACoS down, struggling here, it's a function of that your conversion rate is remaining low and it's not improving, and your cost per clicks are remaining high and you're not able to improve them due to the market or something else. So again, I would still say pick highly relevant keywords, Also, make sure that whatever keywords that you have fits within your budget. Launch them. Aggressive, sponsored product, exact match, potentially sponsored brand video, exact match if you have the creative. Double down on that for a couple weeks and then start expanding. All right. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Ask Junglr. Hello. If this is your first time joining in, I do want to welcome you. And this is a show we do every single Thursday, rain or shine, COVID or sinus infection. That's what I'm dealing with today. Fun. I've been sick since last Sunday, but yet here we are. We still prevail. And so this is a show put on by, you guessed it, Ask Junglr. We are an Amazon ad agency. I'm one of the co-founders. So we manage brands all the way from the complexities of clothing and jewelry down to the cutthroatness of supplements and everything in between. And we do that through really business focused business, we call them business centric ad strategies. What the heck is a business centric ad strategy? And it is an ad strategy that takes into account your goals and what you want to do with your business. Because what I find is on product launches, or if we're trying to scale, if we're trying to grow sales, if we're trying to correct for profitability, again, all of the things that you need, really the one thing that needs to be factored in is what do you want and how do you specifically want to get there? And that is the goal of this show, is for you to be able to show up. So what you can do is you can use the chat. So ask your questions in the comments. We stream on a ton of different platforms. And so the format of this is you can use the chat function wherever you are to ask your questions. And if you are listening to this on the replay, wherever the chat function is, feel free to drop your questions there. We'll definitely give you our best answers. So we do have a couple questions that rolled in. So if you're not part of our newsletter, just a heads up, we do put out a link in the newsletter that allows you to pre-ask questions. So that means that those questions are going to be the ones that I prioritize. So we have a couple of those that I'll get to first. But of course, if you're listening in, there's no question too big or too small on Amazon advertising. Again, we want to make sure our goal here is to help you grow sales through advertising without having to sacrifice profits, because that's the hard part. Growing sales is not the hard part. It's making sure you're not sacrificing your profitability in the process. So that's what we're going to be focused on today. So I have a really good question, and this is one around sort of the campaigns that have been running a really long time, because those typically get the best performance. So the question was, if a campaign has previously been successful, but due to poor bid management, oh goodness, there's some reason why you need to be really, really careful with the way that you're managing bids. It hasn't been performing or getting any impressions for months, 6 to 12 months. Is it worth keeping the campaign? That's a really good question. So my initial answer would be, yes, it is worth keeping the campaign. But my question would be, can we get it to perform at the level of that it used to? And so there is a such thing as campaign history, campaigns that have been running a really, really long time, even if they don't have the best structure. I lovingly refer to these as like Franken campaigns, where those campaigns in your account. They have way too many keywords. They have way too many products lumped in together. There's a million different ad groups. Maybe it's the old auto campaign. You kind of hate that it works, but it totally does work. And so in those cases, you want to be really, really careful with how you're optimizing those, because if that's where you're getting your ad performance and you do something that screws it up, you're going to screw up your ad performance. You just need to be aware of that when you're going through optimizations. But long story short is, I would say, yes, it is worth keeping this campaign. Now, what would I do? I would want to go back. So if the campaign has previously been successful and there was optimizations that made it unsuccessful, i.e. it's not getting any impressions, what were the settings before when it was getting impressions, and can we get it to do that again?
So how would you do this? I would go through and I would just look at where it used to be. Were there negatives that we added? What did we do to the bids? How far did we bring them down? Can we test putting things back to where they was? If we added a negative keyword, can we test removing it? If we lower the bid significantly, can we test increasing it? And then what I would be looking for is the performance good after those optimizations? Now, there's two ways you can go about it. One, you could just like do a complete reset, just say like, hey, given what happened in the past, I'm gonna get rid of the negative keyword completely. I'm gonna put the bids all the way back up to where they were. The thing with that, so that you can either like completely go like full on reset, or what you might do is maybe there was a reason that those bid optimizations happened. Maybe the performance, maybe the ACoS started to get a little bit high and it wasn't where you wanted it to be, and there was a reason why you added, where you lowered it. If that is the case, then I might test sort of increasing it. So an example would be if the bids used to be $1 and now they're at 30 cents, and that's why you can't get it. Maybe I don't want to go all the way up to $1, but maybe I would, just either start like an incremental increase. So like I'm going to increase it 10 cents every couple days and see like where that sweet spot is for impressions. Or you might say like, well, what's half, just kind of like give it a middle ground instead of going like super aggressive. But if it was just like somebody randomly decreased it because they didn't like the way the campaign was structured, not necessarily because it had poor performance, in that case, I might be a little bit more aggressive with my bid optimization. So hopefully that was helpful. I would say it is worth testing. I always say in these cases, worst case scenario, you figure out, oh, it doesn't perform the way it used to. I kind of lost the history. Okay, but you kind of end up back at square one where you are currently. So I think it makes sense to test. I always like to think of like worst case scenario. I'm going to find out that, yeah, no, it's not worth testing. Okay, then I'm already back to where I am today. You shouldn't hurt yourself too much, especially if you're being intentional about your optimizations. Got another question in my inbox this week, and I will also get to the comments and the questions that are getting in there. But this question was, if I want to set my bid ceiling for $1.50, bid ceiling in this case means like the highest bid that I want to go at is going to be $1.50. The question is, what is the difference if I have a dynamic bid set for $1.50, or if we do $1 with the 50% multiplier? How will that make a difference? That is a good question. So when you say a dynamic bid, if you are using fixed bids or you're using dynamic bids down only and your bid is set at $1.50, both of those essentially, your bid cap is still going to be $1.50. Now, if you're using a dynamic up and down bidding, that can up to double your bid, which in fact, like your bid ceiling or the highest possible bid that could be entered into the auction would, be greater than $1.50. So that would be the caveat there. And then in terms of the bid multiplier, so doing a $1 bid and then a 50%, maybe a top of search increase or something like that, you're still going to end up at $1.50, right? Because 50% of $1 is, 50 cents. $1 plus 50 cents is $1.50. So in the case of the bid ceiling and where your bid could eventually end up, what is the highest possible bid I can enter in the auction? These two things are exactly the same. The bid ceiling is not going to change. However, when it comes to the impressions and the traffic that you will get for both of these, that is where things get a little bit different. And so think about it, right? If you have a bid of $1.50 at the keyword level and you don't have any placement percentages or increases, well, you are essentially bidding $1.50 for all of those potential impressions, which would include the top of search, it would include the rest of search, it would include any product page triggers, all of the potential traffic that can be generated through that keyword. You are bidding $1.50 max bid for everything. So the potential traffic, how many ad auctions you are entering into at that $1.50 bid is going to be greater. So what we have found is that if you lean more on your bid optimizations and a high bid, less on trying to do a placement percentage to get sort of that like very specific placements, you tend to get more impressions. Because remember, if we're bidding $1 as our base bid and we have a 50%, maybe it's on the top of search placement. Well, the amount of I'm entering into all of the ad auctions at $1, and then only some of those ad auctions, only the ones that I would be eligible for with that extra 50% placement, are going to be the ones that I'm going to be entering in at $1.50 max bid. And so my impressions are not going to be as high. So if the goal is to simply force a placement, then maybe $1 bid and a 50%, top of search or something is going to make sense to you. The one thing I would caution you with is there is a lot of talk these days on trying to force a specific placement. Until we get negatives in the placement percentages, which to be honest, I don't know if we ever will, it is extremely difficult to force Amazon's hand 100% of the time to only make one placement work or not. And there's a lot of people like who look at the performance of things and really want to force that placement. What I have found is that if your entire goal is to force a placement, oftentimes you end up giving up something, or just it doesn't perform. So I don't want you to think of it as I need to use placements to force something. I would look at it, what is the outcome that I desire? So in this case, if my outcome that I'm desiring is for ranking purposes, I would say what strategies are going to make the most sense in terms of me being able to rank. If I'm trying to get profitability, I would say like what strategies are going to be the most effective in terms of profitability. Forcing a placement or trying to get more on a specific placement for a campaign is a lever to pull if there's a specific outcome that you're looking for. So it's a really effective lever if you know how to use it and you know when and you know why to use it. What I find is that the people who are trying to like force placements because that is the best, or quote, that's what I should be doing, or something along the lines, you end up having like it just doesn't perform the way you want it, because you're not thinking of placements as like one thing in your tool belt. You're thinking of as like something that I must force, and the reality of the situation is just it's really hard to force Amazon's hand to 100% favor a specific placement. The ability for that is just like it's really messy, and it's just in a lot of ways not even possible. So but in terms of bid caps, all the same there. Excuse me. Do my best to not let my voice give out today. Cool. So question coming in, when you launch a product and are scaling, what is your average ACoS? I'm way over 100%, but in getting decent sales velocity every day. That is a good question. When you launch a product, your ACoS is determined by 3 things. It's going to be determined by your cost per click, your conversion rate on the product, and your sale price, or like how much you make on average when somebody converts to a sale. Those are the 3 things that will kind of determine where this number shakes out. Think of it in a logic pattern. So ACoS is ad spend divided by ad sales. So my logic tree here is my conversion rate tells me how many clicks on average it takes me to convert to an order. So if I have a 10% conversion rate, it takes me 10 clicks. If my average cost per click is $1, it takes me 10 clicks at $1 click each. That's $10. If I'm selling something for $20, so that's my ad spend in the equation. If I'm selling something for $20, then every time I make an order, so it takes me 10 clicks at $1 click, and I make $20. So that's $10 divided by $20. I got a 50% ACoS. So if you launch something with a really, really great conversion rate, your ACoS is going to be much lower. If you're in a really competitive market where the cost per clicks are much higher, that's what it's going to shake out to. Now, So in a lot of ways, ACoS 100% matters in terms of, I just talked about like growing sales and wanting to grow them profitably. ACoS 100% matters here. But that doesn't, if you focus on ACoS too early, the one function that is the most effective when it comes to lowering ACoS is your bid optimizations. So if I want to lower ACoS on a term, really the main thing that needs to happen is I'm going to have to lower my bid. The problem with that is when I'm in a launch phase, my goal is to get as much traffic as I possibly can, as many eyeballs on that product as I can, and then those eyeballs are going to translate to sales. So if the action that I need to take is to lower the bid, and that action leads to less visibility or less eyeballs on the product, that's actually counterintuitive and in direct opposition to what I'm trying to do, which is to get more eyeballs on the product. So here's a way that you could have your cake and eat it too. I would not on launch start thinking of it in terms of ad profitability. Definitely down the road, 100%. If you can, you want to be able to run profitable ads. But there is a scenario in which your ads, even though unprofitable, will lead to organic market share. So your ability to rank on keywords. Amazon advertising has a direct impact on that. And then that direct impact, as it leads to the organic ranking, will mean that people will purchase your product without having to click on ads because they clicked on your organic ranking. And so you're able to get sales without having to pay for them, which is often referred to as organic sales. And so in that scenario, if you can have enough organic sales to offset the ones that you're having to pay for and pay for at a loss because your advertising isn't profitable, that is a way in which you can grow sales and also simultaneously grow profits. So that's the way that I would thinking about it. I know if you're over 100% ACoS, it can be really difficult. So the thing that I would look at is, are there specific keywords that I can rank on that are bringing in a profitable ACoS? Am I struggling with my ACoS because the cost per clicks are high? Because that's something that's kind of like a market issue, and that's not really something that I have as much control over. Or am I struggling because my conversion rates are really low? If I'm struggling because my conversion rates are really low, i.e. when I say really low, I mean lower than the market averages. And the way that you could check this, if you're brand registered, you can check your brand analytics inside the ad account. So I would want to know, like, is there something I can do? Do I need a better main image? What do shoppers think of my listing? All of that information. I want to know, am I falling behind the market averages? If I am, what can I do about it? PickFu is it is a fantastic way to start to understand. You want to use data, so brand analytics, search query performance report, to understand, am I at the market averages when it comes to conversion rate? But when you're trying to optimize for conversion rate, I would say check yourself against your competitors. And we found that PickFu is like the best tool to be able to do that. If anyone has any questions on PickFu, I'm more than happy to go through like the way that we've been using it. That's been really, really insightful for brands. All right, in sponsored products category targeting, yes, we get both keywords and ASINs and customer search terms. Yes, we do. So with sponsored product ads, this is honestly kind of infuriating sometimes, is category targeting will both target ASINs that are relevant to that category. So the algorithm sort of picks up all the ASINs at work. It will also pick up keywords that are relevant to that category. It's not just product targeting, keyword targeting as well. So how do we do this? It's a fact. Yes, you are correct. This happens. How do I optimize? How do I adjust my ad account? One thing is control what you can and release the things that you can't. What are the things that I can control? Negative keywords and my bids. So you can't negate keywords in a product targeting ad group. Super annoying. However, there's a hack. You can actually negate keywords at the campaign level. So what I would do, I would go through, I would add anything that I want to get rid of that is not serving me well as a negative at the campaign level, cleared out. Although, unfortunately, this hack doesn't work in sponsored brand ads. That's fantastic. So in that case, if you're talking sponsored brand ads, happens the same way. You want to adjust your bids. So I would say is just bids based on the performance. And you have to go about that way. Oh, what are the key things to think about when creating a PPC strategy that aligns with your overall business goals? I love it. I love it. I'm going to think through it because I do this all the time with our brands. So the thing that I would want to understand, if a brand comes to me, okay, brand new brand, never talked to them before, and they say, and so I ask them like, hey, what kind of issues are you having with your Amazon ads? So this is the evaluation I would be doing with yourself if you're trying to figure it out for your own brand. I would say like, what am I trying to accomplish and why? Why does it matter? Not to me as a Amazon seller. Why does this matter to me as a business? For example, someone might say, I want to grow sales. Okay. Why do you want to grow sales? What resources do we have to grow sales? How much do I want to grow sales? You want a very clear, definitive number. So you need to know the what, you need to know how to measure it, and then you need to know the why. Why do I need this? For example, I need profitability. Why? Because I'm struggling with cash flow. And if I don't get profitability by next month, I'm going to go out of business. Holy crap, that's a problem. That's something that has to happen ASAP versus me saying like, it'd be great if I could figure out a way to get a little bit more profitable because I want to be able to pay myself really more. But, I'm pretty comfortable. But like, that's not a bad idea. But that's not like an ASAP business is on fire. We're going out of business tomorrow. Holy crap, all hands on deck. Right? I'm going to take much more drastic measures in scenario number 1 versus more drastic measures in scenario number 2. Scenario number 1, we might say, hey, we're going to need to give up trying to rank on this main keyword because, like, holy crap, we can't afford it. If we're going out of business, there's a lot more that I need to give up to make sure that this objective happens. Well, scenario number 2, it's like, well, do we want to give up on this main keyword? It's not as profitable, but what, it is sustaining the business and we really want to grow sales. Like, this is something we need to invest in, right? Same objective, different scenarios. You want to understand your what, you want to understand your why, you want to understand your measure. Second thing is, where am I now? How far am I from my goals? How far you are from your goals is going to determine how difficult they are to get, right? How far do you have to go? You want to be very, very specific. So if I say I'm at a 15% total A cost, I want to get to 12, great. What is the difference in that ad spend? What is my ad spend currently? What is 12% of my total sales? And how different is that? If my ad spend isn't that high, if I'm only spending, I don't know, like $3,000 a month, getting from a 15 to a 12, I probably don't have to decrease ad spend that much. If I'm spending $100,000 a month, 2% of $100,000 is a lot of money. I have to decrease ad spend a lot more. With caveat also, if I want to hit the total A cost goal, I got to decrease it a lot without hurting my total sales, because ad spend divided by total sales ad spend has to come down. Total sales must remain the same. Or if both decrease at the same rate, I have the same total A cost, just less sales. Not ideal. So I want to know, again, what do I want? How far it is from my goals, and then I want to zoom into the products in which I have the most likely chance to make changes to achieve my objective. This would be looking at your entire catalog and saying, where are we investing at a loss? If I want to cut ad spend, if I'm cutting ad spend, I work backwards from the things that are not driving sales. Again, goal is sales. If you're cutting for profitability, you want to have the least impact on sales you possibly can. So I'm going to start from what is not giving me sales that has high spend, I'm going to work backwards from that. If I'm expanding, I'm working backwards from the things that I know have the biggest impact on sales, that are generating the most sales profitably, and then I'm going to work towards that. So really, you're saying the two functions, a good ad strategy is good ad spend control. So you're saying, like, where's my ad spend currently? What are my objectives? How far do I have to go? And then which things in my ad account give me the biggest impact of those objectives with the least downside. That was a long one. Ad strategy, honestly, is my favorite thing. So, but that's how I go through and think about it. And if anyone has any follow-up questions to that, always feel free to ask a follow-up question in the chat. But I appreciate the question. All right. Cool. As an ad manager for an SME apparel FBA account, I use ClickUp to maintain ad optimization log. Is there a better SOP for tracking bid changes? One that would help make decisions faster? That is a good question. We use ClickUp for the longest time, and any tracking is honestly task management systems and software are extremely helpful. They also are their own thing to manage. I'm a little bit system agnostic at this point, meaning I don't even care where the system is and where it lives. The thing that I care about the most is how easy is it to get information into the system, and how easy is it for me to get information out of the system. That's what I want to know. If it is easy for you to get information in and out of the system through ClickUp, then maybe that works. I will say, Rosanna, if you're not currently using like tables and filters and different views for your task management system, that is probably going to be the most, like, the easiest way for you to get information out of the system. Because with ClickUp, what we found is that getting information into the system is not as difficult, but it sounds like what you're kind of seeing is that, like, pulling out information, like, what did I do this last, whatever, that's the hard part. So what you can actually do, because I happen to know ClickUp pretty decent, and where I went down this rabbit hole myself, is like when you close out a task, you can actually create different views on, oh gosh, it's been a hot minute, I can't remember the name of it, but if you use what is it, like the task list, you can create a different view with like separate filters of those. And especially if you have like drop downs or other ways to indicate like what you did, you can create like table views or other views that will just like categorically just sort of condense all the closed task for you. So instead of it getting closed out somewhere random, you can create another view that you could like quickly go over and scan. I would say if you haven't explored that option, I would explore it. But the other thing with systems is I wouldn't overthink it, and any system should serve you. So whenever we're trying to develop something, it's kind of like, what am I actually trying to solve? What is the most important thing for me to understand? And then just find like the easiest, most effective way to like get that information is what I would look at. Awesome. By the way, if you like what you're hearing, if this is super helpful, recommend getting me a thumbs up. That helps the algorithm, and that helps other people find us so they can get the value as well. All right, cool. I have an auto campaign performing well with different keywords, ASIN and close match. All are almost like one click, one order, and most are one click, zero orders, but overall A cost is 20%. 20-day performance auto campaign. Exact campaign on relevant higher A cost, please. Explain. If I'm understanding this question correctly, which correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, you're saying you're trying to figure out why the auto campaigns are performing better when you put the exact keywords that you're targeting into exact match. Like, they don't perform the same as they do in the autos. I would say That's totally normal, unfortunately. And the reason why is most likely two things are happening. Again, ACoS, the functions of the ACoS are the cost per clicks, the conversion rates, and then the average order value or the product price. Product price is not changing regardless if it's exact match or auto campaign, so that doesn't matter. Conversion rate, if it is the same keyword, oftentimes is relatively the same. So oftentimes what happens is we're getting lower cost per clicks in the auto. Why does that happen? I don't know. Just it happens. Overall, what I would say is it doesn't the way that auto campaign works is it's targeting a ton of different searches. So if you're looking at it from a campaign level, you're not comparing apples to apples because the auto campaign's targeting a ton of things and the exact match is only targeting just a handful of things. So if you're really trying to compare performance, I would look at it on a search term level. So that would be apples to apples. And then still what you may find is that the auto campaigns just perform better. It's sort of infuriating, but that's not abnormal. I like this one. If you have ordered 20 products in one brand, would you recommend advertising all of the 20 products with this 1 to 2 exact match keywords? I'm assuming in this case that your products all apply to the exact same keywords. I'm also going to assume for this that this is not a variation. If these are variations, my answer is going to be a little bit different, but these are all separate products, 20 separate products, and they all share the same 2 to 4 keywords. I would say yes, I would target all of the products on those 2 to 4 exact match keywords. The goal here would be to rank, and then honestly, a lot of people overthink this, but what I would say is just optimize based on performance. If one product converts better, for some reason it gets a lower cost per click, if it has a higher price point, whatever, the ACoS for every single one of those products, again, I'm assuming these are separate products, but the ACoS for all of these products is going to differ based on the individual performance. So if we're optimizing based on what's working the best, we're naturally going to start increasing the bids, increasing budgets of all the stuff for all the ad account for the products that are working better. So naturally the cream's going to rise to the top. And if something's not working as well, you're naturally going to optimize it down, not spend as much money on it, right? So you can advertise on all of them, and then you just optimize based on which ones perform best, and then you'll naturally start aggressively managing the things that are performing the best, and that's where your ad account improves, and you can find out which products work best for which keywords. So it seems complicated when you're trying to think it through, but really you can simplify it, just like optimizing what works and then letting the best stuff get the love it needs. If a keyword came in a search term in a category targeting campaign, then we cannot add the keyword to the negative targeting. Yeah, so that is correct. Abdul, you'll have to add the negative keyword at the campaign level, unless this is a sponsored brand campaign. In that case, you can't add the negative keyword at a campaign level. So what I would do is I would just optimize it using the bid would be my. It's on a good question. How do you find out current market conversion rate for my niche? Like, is it sponsored brand analytics or search query performance helpful in a way? How can I figure this out? Please do a demo. I did do a demo. I totally did. Let me go here and I will find the video for you. Give me a second and I will also drop it in the comments here. So it's this video right here, which is spy on your competitors. I actually go through and I show you specifically on excuse me, how to use brand analytics and how to use search query performance report to find the conversion rate of your competition. So I did do a demo. Hopefully it helps. Let me know if you have any issues with that. And then yeah, search query performance and brand analytics would be the way that I would go about it. All right, good question. What is the best way to reduce spend and ACoS without hurting the business? Do I turn off budgets to save costs, but then get 0 sales after that till midnight? Great question. So I would figure out, where does my ACoS need to be to sustain my business. I want to know how low do I need to go? What is sustainable for my business? Again, I want a marked, measurable goal that I know if I'm winning or losing at. And then reduce ad spend. I always want to work backwards from the things that are not generating orders for me. So this would be negative keywords. Clicks with no sale keywords are the biggest waste of ad spend in any account. Now, you want enough clicks to validate if it's a good keyword, right? If you have a 10% conversion rate, that means it takes me 10 clicks on average to generate an order. So if I reduce the bid only after I got like 2 clicks, that's not enough for me to make an evaluation, right? So I need to be thinking in terms of like data. But one of the best things to do, targeting tab. I love that update in Amazon Ad Console. It's phenomenal. So what I would do is I would go into the targeting tab. I would select lifetime. I want to see all the lifetime of all my keywords. I would filter for 0 orders and I would sort by clicks, highest to lowest. This tells me what has been running in my entire ad account that has gotten the most clicks and has not generated an order. That is prime ad spend to cut and know that you're not going to affect business because it's not generating orders for you anyways, right? So that's what I would start with. Another great place to weed out is going to be negative keywords. If I have a bunch of search terms, maybe I have Broadmatch, maybe I have autos that are, bleeding out for me. So you're getting a ton of clicks, no orders. So again, I would go into my search term reports. I would want to look at a longer date range. So whatever is the longest date range I can possibly pull, I'm pulling that. I'm doing the exact same filters. I'm filtering for things that have 0 orders and I'm sorting by clicks, highest to lowest. I want to get rid of this ad spend. So working backwards from the stuff that is not generating orders from you. The other thing to look at, and this is something that a lot of people miss, are the things that have a lot of clicks, only have a couple orders, and have really high ACoS. So for example, what if I had a keyword that had 50 clicks, I only generated 1 order from it, and I had over 200% ACoS. Yes, I'm generating an order, but I only got 1, so the volume and how much impact it has on my sales is not very high, and I'm really unprofitable. This could be a keyword. This could be a search term. That's more prime real estate. Again, I'm working backwards from sales, not a lot of sales, a lot of wasted ad spend, not really doing much for my business. That's what I would look at. So I would look at it more like a smaller level. So bids and search terms. And then what you can do is you can find other things. Again, if you have high spend on a campaign that's not generating orders for you, or you have high spend somewhere where you're just not getting a lot of good performance in terms of orders, really high ACoS, that's where you can weed down the budget. What you're talking about is turning off budgets to save costs, gives 0 sales. It sounds like you're looking at day parting. Day parting can be great to save money and to get more efficient with ad spend, but it's a much more advanced option. And to be honest, the impact that it has on the account is not as significant as if you went and you did like bid optimizations, regular budget optimizations, or negative keywords. So I would start looking at that stuff first. And then if you need to cut more, maybe go through and try day parting. All right, how would you optimize a product campaign with a high impressions but a low click-through rate without increasing the bid? My thing is click-through rate is important to know how well my product is resonating with that target market, i.e. when somebody searched that keyword, how many of those people are clicking on it. But I wouldn't optimize for click-through rate. I'm going to push back against this one, Michael, and I'm going to say I don't really care, to be honest. My question would be like, when I do get clicks, do they convert, and is it at an ACoS that makes sense for me? If that's the case, then leave it. Who cares about click-through rate? Now, of course, when it comes to like your main image and optimizing all those things, click-through rate 100% matters. Can you get more traffic? Give you a better click-through rate? 100%. But in terms of ad optimizations, like you optimize the listings for click-through rate, I would optimize my ads for performance, i.e., am I making sales? When I make these sales, are they profitable? Those are the only two things I care about, really, in terms of optimizing the ads for something. And then what I'm doing is I'm looking at click-through rate as like a market signal to say, okay, if I'm struggling to get conversion rates on this, or, you know, I'm trying to figure out, like, is this a good keyword for me? I can look at my click-through rate as sort of like a barometer of how well does this resonate? Am I resonating in this market? And if I have good click-through rate, I'm like, okay, well, this is probably a good keyword. You know, obviously people really like my product when they show up on the search page. Because the only really way that you would optimize the click-through rate would be to maybe adjust using placement percentages, but you already took something out of the equation and say, like, hey, I'm not going to increase the bid. Showing up top of search is the best way to increase click-through rate, but like that doesn't sound like what you're looking at. So I honestly, I don't give a crap about click-through rate unless I'm trying to look for like a particular market signal and I need that data feedback. Otherwise, I'm looking at performance. Am I making sales? Are they profitable? You can have the worst click-through rate in the world. I could have a sub 1.01% click-through rate. If my sales are growing, if my profitability is crushing it, if like my total A cost is on point, I could give a crap. So it is important, but it's not something I would ever optimize for. I'll just put it that way. Hi, I remember you indicated ranking within your campaign ad group name. Wondering, are keywords you're using Helium 10 keyword tracker on? Do you ever remove a keyword as ranking? If so, when? Good question, Kim. Let's see. Yes, I like to track keywords. So use Helium 10 keyword tracker. Another one we really like to track keyword ranking is called Data Rova. Those are the two ones we primarily use. We ever remove a keyword of ranking? Yes. If it is not serving us anymore. What I mean by serving us is, are we able to gain more ranking on that keyword? Like, have we sort of reached a pinnacle? And like, are we struggling to rank on this? And like, does the amount that we have to invest in terms of ad spend outweigh the benefits, i.e., are we losing money because we keep pushing more ad spend towards this like search term or this keyword, or are we just not able to get any additional sales? Are we not seeing an impact on sales growth when we push into ranking? So if going aggressively after that keyword for ranking purposes is not serving us anymore, then that would be when we would remove it. It's not like a time decision. It's not like, oh, after 3 weeks or 2 weeks. It's not a bad idea to maybe like evaluate what you're going after periodically, you know, every month, every couple months, just to say like, hey, is aggressively pushing for rank on these search terms actually serving me still? Yes or no? And then you would just make an evaluation from there. But hopefully that was helpful. And yes, we have found it helpful to like indicate inside the campaign name, because that just makes it really easy to use a search bar to figure out where are my ranking campaigns and how are they performing. All right. Does a well-performing auto campaign close match help in ranking better, or a manual campaign on highly relevant keywords with exact match? They both have an impact. So here's the thing. There's a debate on LinkedIn right now, which I'm pretty active in LinkedIn, and that their Broadmatch keywords are underutilized and everybody should use Broadmatch. While I agree with that, I 100% agree that the algorithm does not care. Amazon does not care if it's an auto campaign, if it's a Broadmatch campaign. If you advertising on that keyword shows you on that search page, and a lot of shoppers click on you, purchase you, you're sending all of those good vibrations to the algorithm, and the algorithm's like, oh my gosh, this product's a vibe. Totally, we're going to show this higher in search, right? And you move up in rankings. If that, where the visibility of those clicks that, you know, funnel to the conversion happens is triggered through an auto campaign, a broad match campaign, a phrase match campaign, heck, if it's a product targeting campaign, Amazon's algorithm doesn't care. They just said, hey, you appeared here. Somebody clicked, somebody purchased. Good things happen when we show up this product. That will lead to rankings. Now, here's where people lose me in the conversation of we should focus on Broadmatch and autos and things. Good ad management is about ad spend control. It's about controlling ad spend. Where's our ad spend going? Is it serving us in terms of growing sales and not making us completely lose all profits, right? Can we get a sustainable business with the advertising strategy that we're running? Yes or no? And so to be able to make moves, to have the right ad strategy, to have the right impact on the business, you want to be able to direct where that ad spend is going. If I have a close match auto campaign, and it's the same search term, right? And I'm driving a lot of orders and I'm getting ranking through that auto campaign, and I want to increase the bid for that because I'm like, hey, this is working phenomenal. I'm pushing up in rankings. I'm going to have to increase that bid on the auto campaign, which is going to increase the bid across hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of different potential search terms that auto campaign will trigger, which is a potential huge waste of my ad spend because I have little to no control. I have practically no control in the auto campaigns of which search terms Amazon is going to direct my ad budgets to. So in those cases, it is not optimal for pushing for ranking with, those types of broader campaigns because I can't say, hey, Amazon, I only want you to take my ad budget and this really high bid, and I need you to spend on that specific search term, right? That's what you can do with the exact match campaign. So that's what I would think about it. It's a control lever. It is not necessarily something that the algorithm actually cares about. Oh, this is a great campaign. How many ranking campaigns is advisable for competitive products like supplements? This is a great question. I would say it depends on two things, but mainly stems from one thing is what is my ad budget? If I have a bigger ad budget, I probably am going to have more keywords to go after, so I'm going to have more campaigns. So your optimal number of campaigns is going to be curated by two things. One, ad budget, and then two, the search market in your space. So there's certain products that there's, thousands of different ways that customers search for those types of products. So my options in terms of what I can target is thousands of different keywords, but that should be curated based on how my ad budget is. Because if I have thousands of keywords, maybe I can't afford to run on thousands of keywords, and that's totally fine. I would just want to curate. I would say like, okay, so I have to pick a handful of these, right? But what if you had a product where there's only 10 or 20 different keywords, right? So that I only have 10 or 20 different options. Maybe I don't have that big of an ad budget, but maybe I can afford all of those. So then I'm going to have less campaigns. So the answer is it depends, but what does it depend on? Your search market, how many keywords are shoppers using to find your particular products, and then two, how big is your ad budget? Those things will shape how many campaigns you have. All right, good morning. Hello. I have a product targeting campaign that is generating a good amount of sales for rest of search placements. I wanted to know, should I increase the rest of search premium for it? I would say yes, if you are happy with, it sounds like you're happy about the sales that are happening, but what does the ACoS look like? Is the, performance and profitability something? And can you afford to go a little bit higher? If you can, then yes, I would test it. And I would test it, limited. When I say limited, put a 10, 20%, a smaller increase, and then just see what happens and then go from there. But I am a huge fan of adjusting placements based on performance. So I would say in this case, it sounds like it's CS, but just curate it based on profitability. All right. Hey, Elizabeth, I have seen low sales this month. I'm concerned if it's due to start of Q4. People are waiting for deals. Should I look for other factors? Yes, here's how I look at it. So your sales are a function of three numbers. And you can check these three numbers and figure out what changed. And then based on those three numbers, you can go down. Let the data lead you down the rabbit hole to the right answer. Here's what I would look at. If I have lower sales this month, I want to know why. There's pretty much there's 3 things, but there's pretty much 2 reasons. One, and you can find this in the business reports, is how many people are landing on my listing. This is your sessions. How many people are purchasing when they land on the listing. That is your conversion rate, or if your unit session percentage, if you're inside business reports, I'm assuming you're a 3P seller, not a 1P. And the other thing is when somebody converts to a sale, how much do I make? That is my sale price. Now, that probably hasn't changed much, but here's an example, right? If I get the exact same amount of traffic and I had the exact same amount of people converting, but I cut my sale price in half, I technically would be cutting my sales in half, 50%, because I'm making less for every single one of those conversions. Now, people lower prices because they assume like conversion rates will go up and everything else will go up, and so then they still make more sales. But if nothing else changed and I just changed price, then I'm going to make less money, right? The typically is not the most drastic. So then the other 2 equations are, am I getting less traffic, or is less of that traffic converting, i.e. conversion rates? So I would compare it. I would pull data from last month. I would pull data from this month. And I would say, is that I'm getting less traffic? Am I converting less? Then my question is, okay, it's because I'm getting less traffic. What are the factors of traffic? Search. How many people are actually searching? So you can look at Product Opportunity Explorer, because this will actually give you search trends in your space. You can look at Helium 10 and their historical traffic for the keywords. You can look at how many keywords you're ranked on. Maybe your ranking went down, maybe less. So it's either a function of the market. There's less shoppers searching in general. And again, you can look at Product Opportunity Explorer, Brain Analytics, Search Query Performance Report. I also know, like, hey, are there less searches happening? Or is it because there's just as many searches, but I'm not being found as much? So that is like my rankings, where I'm appearing, all of the above, right? Or if it's a conversion rate thing, I want to know, is it a market trend in my, like, is everyone's like conversion rate going down in general? So maybe it's not just me. Or is it because all of a sudden I'm not as competitive in the market anymore? So how I would look at this, again, you can look at Search Query Performance, Brain Analytics. I would say, okay, what is the averages in my space? Again, we're looking at last month, we're looking at this month. Did conversion rate in general go down, or is it just me? Because sometimes it's market trends, but sometimes it's just you. And so if that is the case, I just want to know, is it a market thing? Is it a just me thing? And then what can I do about it? So if it's a conversion rate went down, what are the things that I can do to increase my conversion rate? If it is a traffic thing, what are the things that I can do to increase my traffic? And then I would go from there. But whenever your sales are going down, it's a function of those 2 things. Conversion rate went down, sessions went down, and then I just want to know which of them is it? And then that will lead me to the correct deduction, to the correct conclusion, to the correct action that I should take on those. What are the factors, strategies behind a successful PPC campaign, and what made it successful? Ooh. Asking the hard questions this week. All right. Factor strategies. It is a successful campaign is the one that completes the objectives and the goals of that campaign. So that would be, are we trying to get more profitable? And I'm launching campaigns because I want to get profitable, low-cost traffic. Did that campaign execute? Am I getting lower cost traffic? If my goal is to increase ranking for the product, did rankings improve? So it's really thinking about the goals and objectives of what am I trying to accomplish? Again, those should always be tied to business objectives. Every single time when there is a misalignment between what any agency is executing is because they didn't fully understand the business objectives and the reasons why we need the thing. You need to learn to ask really, really, really good questions. If you can ask good questions, you get better answers. If you get better answers, you have better objectives. If you have better objectives, it becomes a lot clearer on what needs to execute. And then that's where the expertise comes in is to say like, okay, I know all the possible like types of campaigns I can run. I know what this is the objective. Given my experience, I can better pick the strategies. But it really all starts with clear objectives and clear business goals. All right, I've been running a keyword campaign on all variations 16. Sales drop. Hot selling variation suddenly affected overall sales, but nothing changed in PPC. How would you consider that scenario? Yep. So your bestseller went out of stock and your ads are tanking. It happens. The reason why it's happening is because that product that went out of stock is the one that converted the best. So again, if sales are dropping, it is a function of two things. If we're talking business reports, or two things if we're talking about ads. The two things are sessions, traffic to the listing. Did traffic go down, or did conversion rates go down? 9 times out of 10, when the bestseller goes out of stock, it is because the conversion rate went down. So unfortunately, you're just kind of left in a hard spot. That's why they say the first, second, and third rule about running a good account on Amazon is not go out of stock. But here we are. If you're talking about ad performance, again, it is clicks, and how are those clicks converting? Sometimes like the click-through rate isn't as good. Maybe you're getting lower traffic. So you basically want to look at all aspects of the funnel and then say like, which of these went down? Which of these got worse? And then that leads you again to the correct thing to look at, which leads you to the correct diagnostic, which leads you to the correct action. And unfortunately, most times in this scenario, I just kind of have to wait till the bestseller gets back in stock. So there's two ways you can play it. One, you can just run it. You continuously optimize for maybe like the same ACoS, which typically means that you're going to lower bids, which is going to lower traffic, which is going to lower sales, and you get into this death spiral. So that's something you want to be very careful about. Or you might say, hey, ad performance, because we need to sustain the traffic, but it's not going to be the same profitability because these other products just don't convert as high. We're going to need to have some wiggle room in terms of the ad performance for a little bit until this new, like, the product comes back in stock, because then all the, the conversion rates will be there. But we don't want to affect our rankings, and we don't want to affect the traffic in the meantime, because if we want the same performance, we're going to have to lower ad spend. And then again, the potential there is to get into a death spiral. So just be careful of that. But yeah, it's just figuring out which data point changed when that thing happened. So I would compare the date ranges before, date ranges after, what's happening, go from there. All right, looks like we have a couple of questions we can get to before. We got 2 more minutes, but I'll make sure we get the answer to these. Could you please explain ranking campaigns and conversion rate campaigns? Aren't they the same? How do we name a campaign a ranking campaign if it doesn't help in the conversion? What is the logic without conversions? I think it is a waste. I noticed there's no conversions. There's not ranking at all. Kindly explain. Yeah, so if there's no conversions, there's no ranking. You would be correct. How you name it is basically like when you're creating the campaign, you just put somewhere in the name, you put ranking. What does that do? That allows you to say like, okay, my intent for this campaign is a ranking campaign. That's my intention. I'm going to launch it. Going back to that question of like, what makes a successful campaign? It's like success is determined by, am I achieving objectives, which in this case would be ranking. And you are 100% correct. To get ranking, I need conversions. And so therefore my success is going to be determined like, can I actually get sales? Can I convert on this keyword, right? But we've sort of predetermined the objective of this, which is ranking, which is why we put that in the campaign name. So you can go into your account and you could like search ranking, and then it'll just bring up all your campaigns that are ranking. And then what we're doing is we're evaluating and saying, are we getting these conversions? So yeah, ranking campaigns and conversion campaigns, they're not like, it's the same thing. So I'm not sure if I said anything that made it confusing. If so, I apologize. But I would say there are other objectives for campaigns. So for example, like I have a low bid auto. that I'm just trying to get really profitable traffic to the listing, right? It's more of like a performance, low ACoS type objective. I'm not going to go aggressive there because that's not the objective. And so I'm going to optimize it more for profitability. So when I say like there's different strategies with campaigns, it's like there's different objectives. And then you optimize based on what those objectives are. All right, coming in the last one, in supplements, launching a single SKU product for a client selling at $25 each. Desperate for one tip to take from you today. When each click is $7, there are 10 clicks needed to sell one item. Oh, yes, supplements are gnarly, dude. Okay, here is what I will tell you we've done for supplements. This is what you're finding is that the cost to test in any high cost per click space are really freaking high. And so this is why it's kind of scary going into these because you're like, everything's $7, like whatever. So your goal is to test things quickly and move quickly. You're going to test things in batches. When I mean batches, I mean like, so at $7 a click, it takes 10 clicks on average. It's like $70. That's not even profitable because we have a $25 price point. This is insane, right? What happens when you multiply that test across like 20 different keywords? The cost is like insane, right? So what I would want to do is I would want to say, where do I as an ad manager understand that this product fits the best into the market? So you're going after like high relevancy here. Where do I think I have the best chance of making a conversion rate? And then you're going to pick a handful of those. And when I say handful, depends on the ad budget. It might be 3. It might be 2. You might have 5, again, depending on the ad budget. And then I would want to test these. You know, I'm going to be a little bit more aggressive with the bids. I'm going to be like, can I get any traffic for $6? Can I get a $5? Like, and I'm going to watch these like a hawk. And then I'm going to see, like, can I get any conversions on these whatsoever? And what you're going to find is that, well, there's some of these keywords that I can't get any conversions on whatsoever. So I'm going to, like, turn those bids way down. I'm going to do aggressive optimizations. And I'm going to say, okay, where's the next 2 or 3 keywords that I can test, right? And then so you're just saying, like, how can I do these really frequent small batch tests, move really fast? So instead of taking, like, 20 keywords, spreading a huge ad budget across everything, I'm going to like condense it and shorten the window. So I'm basically taking that same budget and I'm running test. And then I'm finding the gold nuggets within those tests. And then I'm maintaining that. Downside here is, you know, these kind of tests, you're spreading them out in frequent micro tests. So if you were able to go like balls to the wall, ad budget crazy, and then pull back from there, like you get the data much faster. But the problem that we find in this category is that the costs of doing that are so significantly high that a lot of brands aren't okay with sustaining that. So I would just run like those frequent micro tests and then evaluate and adjust from there. So hopefully that was helpful. But let me know if you have any follow-up questions. Thank you so much. She was saying, congratulations, even with nasal challenges. It's awesome. Thank you for all the help. I appreciate it. Last question squeaking in. For variations with products you advertise for, the parent ASIN, the cheapest product, or all the products? I'm going to give you, Dan, I'm going to give you a video for you to watch, and then I will give you a very short suite. So for context, we manage a lot of clothing brands. Talk about all of the issues with variations. Gets crazy. So I would say how to increase sales, the best variation ad strategy. What I would recommend doing is, if you have the data to do so, Dan, I would advertise the best sellers. And then for any variation specific keywords, meaning a blue shirt, red water bottle, that is very specific to that variation, then we advertise the relevant variations. Now, but you want to put your best foot forward, best conversion rates forward, and I would primarily go after the best seller for those products. There is more tips in there because with clothing in and out of stock, constantly an issue. And so you want to make sure there are some optimization tips when it comes to like being aware of that. So that being said, I appreciate everybody joining in. For those of you who stayed the entire 60 minutes, I hope you found value. Again, I will be here same time, same place next week. And again, those of you who keep showing up, I appreciate you. If anyone is interested, if anyone was like, oh, how do you want business-centric ad strategies? What should my ad strategy look like? I'm struggling to get this objective result. How in the world do I get it? Feel free to join our website, Junglr.com. And reach out. You can talk to me personally, and we will get you an ad evaluation. Go through how do you build a business-centric strategy. Also, feel free to subscribe to our YouTube channel because, again, every single time we go live, you will get notified of those lives. And with that, I appreciate it, and I will see you all next week.
And that wraps up this episode of the Ask Junglr Amazon Advertising Podcast. I hope you found these insights and strategies helpful in your Amazon PPC journey. Remember, if you have a burning Amazon ad question that you'd like answers to, head over to junglr.com/live to join our next live Q&A session. Until next time, keep optimizing those ads and stay hungry.